I quit dairy 7 years ago today, so I'm gonna share with you guys the 7 things that happened after. And some of these are going to be kind of weird and a little bit embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so number 1 is I had some crazy ass dreams. I don't know what it was about the dairy and then not eating dairy, the lack of, or what changed as far as my body, my brain chemistry or whatever, but I just noticed I had some very weird and vivid dreams. I feel like that's kind of how things go. When you have more vivid dreams, they just seem to be weirder and weirder. Or maybe it's the fact that you're actually remembering the dreams a lot more, and because of the nature of how weird dreams are in general, feel like you're having weirder dreams because you are remembering them more. Number 2 is I stopped craving pizza and Mexican food. So naturally what begins to happen when you cut out dairy in your life is you're going to realize that there are certain foods, there are certain cuisines, certain cultures, foods that rely heavily on the use of dairy in pretty much all of their main dishes and desserts. So for me, that was pretty obvious. Italian pizza was a huge one for me that I really just stopped eating altogether. All the sauces, all the pasta, the added cheese, the Parmesan, and then all the desserts as well, right? Cheesecake, cannolis, ice cream. I mean, all of it is tough to cut out. Now, luckily, the majority of the things that I just mentioned are pretty bad for you and can be very highly caloric. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. And then Mexican, of course, you've got burritos, you've got fajitas, cheese sprinkled on refried beans, you've got tacos, you've got all these different things, sour cream, as well as some other sorts of desserts and things as well that, you know, the Mexican culture likes to enjoy. That's really just heavy in creams, dairies, milk, cheese, all that sort of thing. And again, if we really look at Mexican food as a whole, a lot of those foods that I just mentioned, not super healthy. Also, Mexican restaurants and cuisines are really known to be cooking in highly inflammatory oils and other things like that. So missing out on that, missing out on the fried food, the chimichangas and things like that is again, kind of a blessing in disguise. But once I really cut these out based more on necessity, not based on the preference or that I didn't like the flavor, I just stopped craving them. And I really feel like that's kind of how life is in general with anything, whether it's food, whether it's drugs, whether it's other habits. When you cut them out completely of your life, you really stop thinking about them and you stop craving them. And if the thing that you had to give up in the first place was kind of a net negative or bad, then it's a positive that you stop craving it, stop doing it, stop going there, stop eating those things. So up for number 3 is clear skin. So what's crazy for me is I actually noticed that I struggled with a lot of acne when I was younger, and what I noticed is that it got a lot better. So I've heard plenty of times that milk, cheese, dairy, these things were linked to acne, oily skin, things like that. And for me, I never really thought that my acne was ever going to go away. I was one of those teenagers where I was just like, oh man, like I'm gonna have acne forever. This is going to suck and I'm going to look like pizza face for the rest of my life. But luckily, I think 2 things happened at the same time. 1, I cut out dairy completely. I had much less oily skin, a lot less breakouts, and just overall less pimples, less blackheads, and my skin totally cleared up. The other thing that happened is I quit dairy at a point in my life where I was really becoming an adult. And I think a lot of the hormones and imbalances and things that happened during puberty stopped, and I really started to grow up and kind of grow out of that acne phase of my life. Number 4 is really weird, but my sense of smell changed and it actually got better. I don't know why this is. Again, this was a weird one that I noticed, but for whatever reason, I felt like my ability to smell things, smell different foods, maybe I was smelling foods that I was missing out on or that I was not eating, and I was more in tune with that. But the other thing that I noticed too is I would smell certain dishes, or I'd be around my mom when she was cooking, or I would get a whiff of something and I would just be catapulted back to like some nostalgic moment where I remember from my childhood. I believe there's something I've heard at one point, do not quote me on this, you might have to fact check me here, but I remember something about the receptors in your brain that are responsible for your sense of smell is actually closely related, or at least positioned close to this part of your brain that is responsible for memories. So a lot of times senses of smell or smelling a certain type of food or a certain thing can really sort of catapult you into a memory or provide a vivid memory of a specific set or situation. All right, number 5 is that I started to sing better. I think that my voice got a little bit better here. Now, it wasn't drastic, of course. This was just a little bit of a boost. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if it was the fact that I was quitting dairy or that I was just singing more at this time in general. I'm not a singer. I'm not somebody that is a professional or takes lessons or anything like that. However, I was in choir in high school and I do enjoy singing to myself. I get a song stuck in my head. I'm belting it out in the shower, in the car, wherever I am. And I just noticed that I felt like I was a little bit more in tune with my voice, with my vocal cords, and just being able to, I guess, project the right notes and, you know, hit some of those notes, some of those melodies that maybe were a struggle for me in the past. Number 6 is the biggest one and probably the thing that I am most grateful for completely giving up dairy, and that is the reduced inflammation in my body. So as a child, I struggled with actually a lot of different things that were related to an increase of inflammation. So I had chronic ear infection. As a child, I was always going to the doctor, having to get antibiotics prescribed to me and different things for my ear infections. As well as I got older, when I was around the college age between 18 and 22, I started to get really bad sinus infections. And I actually was diagnosed at one point with chronic sinusitis, which is essentially chronic sinus infections. And it was really hard for me to breathe through my nose. And when I was giving up dairy and I was like totally dairy free at this point in my life, I noticed that a lot of that started to clear up. I got way less ear infections. I just felt overall less inflamed, less sort of bloated. And so that was huge for me because I was no longer having to take antibiotics. I could significantly decrease the amount of painkillers or over the counter, you know, Advil, ibuprofen, things like that were addressing some of those issues and some of that pain. Plus, it's just so much nicer to be able to breathe through your nose, as breathing through your nose is significantly healthier and better for you than breathing through your mouth. So really just prioritizing that, being able to take clean, you know, big breaths in through my nose and just having that on autopilot has been such a blessing. Last but not least is better digestion. So number 7, the last one, is way better digestion. I'm sure that you can imagine for this one, anyone you've talked to that is lactose intolerant, that has problems with dairy, most of the time, if you get the dirty details, you'll know that it's because when they consume dairy, they fart a ton, their farts smell terrible, and most of the time they'll end up struggling from either diarrhea, constipation, or a mixture of both of those things. I, unfortunately, was a mixture of both of those things with digestion, and since giving it up, I've been so much better on the porcelain porch. Not only that, but it leads to less bloating. As I said, less farting for me. Sometimes when I would eat, you know, it's a little bit gross, but when I would eat dairy and I would eat a ton of pizza, I would just fart a ton. And that, I think, for me was a very clear signal of my body basically telling me, hey, I don't like what you just put inside your body. Or, hey, Cooper, we don't digest this very well. When you put this inside our body, we don't really know what to do with it. So less of that was great, less bloating. You also get that stomach discomfort. Your stomach puffs out. You don't feel good. You just, overall, it's not a good feeling. And the fact that I had better digestion, I felt like it was easier for me to hit my goals in the gym. It was easier for me to find foods that actually agreed with me, that made me feel good instead of made me feel sick to my stomach. And when you're less bloated, you look better. So aesthetically, you got your shirt off, you can see your abs, you can see your veins popping. And when you cut out dairy as well, you're cutting out a lot of fat. And I don't think there's anything wrong with fat, especially healthy fats from dairy, meats, oils like avocado oil, things like that. Those are healthy for you. The problem is that fats are highly caloric. So in moderation, they're good and you need them to thrive and survive and have a healthy diet. However, too many fats, for instance, adding cheese on everything, having high caloric desserts with frostings and cheeses and ice creams and all these different things, they just add up on the caloric side. And sometimes when you're having a ton of calories like that, it's very hard to stick to a diet, or it's very hard to keep your calories in check, or even be in a caloric deficit if you're trying to lose weight. So guys, that was my 7 things that I noticed after giving up dairy. Now, so I want you guys to comment below, would you ever give up up dairy. I'm sure some of you right now found this video because you are considering giving up dairy. So let me know in the comments, would you do it? Would you try it out for maybe a couple weeks, a month, 6 months, a year? I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. That's it for this video. If you guys haven't already and you're enjoying this video, go check out some of my other videos. Maybe drop a like or subscribe to stay tuned for when I drop some more videos like this. Anyways, have a great rest of your week. I'm out.